And what is that? Check the website. And then any form of state or local government can also apply. So charitable foundations can apply, or charitable organizations can apply, private for-profits can apply, and government can apply. The length of the projects being solicited are anywhere from 12, 24, or up to 36 months. So you can apply for a 3-year program. You know, keep in mind, Cuyahoga County will only have 1.8 some million to distribute. $1,886,860.54 in the next fiscal year. So we as a board will have to decide based upon the grant applications that we receive who we want to fund.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Judge.
Sure,
Can I
go
ask
ahead.
a quick question before we go
Yeah.
on? If we decide as a board to fund like a 3-year project, do we have to use just the 1.8, or can we wait for additional years of our funds to apply, to include? Does that make sense?
Sarah?
Yes, if you award a multi-year grant, it has to come out of this year one allocation, because we don't know what future ones will be.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
And as you see on that sheet, they do go down over time. But on the other hand, there may be some period of time where Cuyahoga County gets more than we're getting now. And it's kind of complicated. We were the bellwether case. We received funds already, over $100 million in funds came to Cuyahoga County and some to Summit County. Defendants who are not part of that litigation, like Purdue, may settle and contribute funds to the foundation that would then flow to Cuyahoga County at a higher rate than the current 3-point-something%. So now I told you about the 3 types of organizations that can apply. What the foundation is going to be looking for are any documentation about the organization's license, certifications, or accreditations. If the organization is not licensed, certified, or accredited, applicants must provide details of the organization's current status. We're not. There may be some good programs out there, but we're not looking to form, the mom and pop recovery center that just formed last week. So, again, I'm just giving you this to educate the board. You'll get this document, I'm sure, right after, on or about March 4th. We need to talk about later on, how we're going to, as a board, decide whom to fund. But there will be a vetting by the statewide organization. We have to decide who our power user will be at this meeting. The person who enters the information, saying we like this grant, we don't want that grant. And there's a multi-stage vetting process that I'm going to ask Sarah to explain in a little bit, using the expert panel that's created in this document and has been fully outfitted with people from around the state. And final approval after this region approves the projects, the board still has to vote in Columbus, the 29-member board of the One Ohio Foundation, but I don't anticipate that being really anything more than a rubber stamp after the thorough vetting process that has been created under this document. So what can or can't be used for the money? Again, if you're interested in applying or know someone who's interested in applying, costs must be for new or expanded programs and services. Applicants cannot use foundation funds to replace, divert, or supplant current funds for past or current expenditures. Although the applicant may use funds in the event a state or federal grant has ended or is in near completion, i.e. ARPA funds. Also, administrative costs can't be more than 10% of the total grant request. So just like that. So what's not allowable, funds cannot be used for any non-abatement or non-prevention strategies. Fund cannot be used for a recipient staff benefit items, like if you're going to give away gift cards or rebates or travel points. However, certain other incentives for program recipients are allowable. No cost for, you can't use any cost for alcoholic beverages or marijuana. Shocker. And you can't use this for fundraising costs or lobbying costs or any legal costs that you've incurred in the past regarding opiate litigation expenses. Also, costs for non-FDA approved medications for treatment of substance use disorders is not allowable, so I'm assuming that's marijuana. This will be on the website soon. It's a multi-page document that a lot of time in the grant subcommittee went into, and I've been a part of that. So that's the good news. The dates are, early March. You can get the RFPs go out. Applications can start flowing April 2nd, and they have to be in by May 3rd. And I can't give you a deadline as to when monies would be released, but I gotta imagine it's going to be within 3 months of May 3rd. So a little behind what we told you last year, but the ship is finally sailing. Also, there's been a change of leadership. Our foundation board chair, Larry Kidd, is running for Congress. So he has stepped down as board chair, and Don Mason, who is the mayor of Lancaster, is that right, Sarah? Is the interim chair. So we need to, the board has a website that I've mentioned 16 times now. It's we have documents on there regarding Region 3 already. The bylaws of Region 3 are on there. The membership of the board are on there. They're looking to put on each region's funding priorities so applicants can know whether they're likely to get funded. And they're looking for percentage allocations of the priorities. Now, I would not recommend, in my opinion, handcuffing yourself to a funding percentage. I mean, we don't know what applications we might receive. There might be one that just knocks our socks off and we want to give 100% of the funds to that. So, we've already done work on a funding rubric. I can't remember whether that's finalized or not. I don't think it was.
We're gonna discuss it. It's for the next agenda.
But we're finally, it was really a nice moment when the board approved this grant document in final form that will soon be released, because you can see light at the end of the tunnel now. We have dates and things are going to happen. So it was a lot of work to get to this point. And again, I've mentioned this before. The members of the board are pretty dedicated, and we have just a fantastic executive director and a pretty good regional rep. So, who actually is a citizen of resident of Cuyahoga County. So, any questions on any of that?
I've got a couple questions. I think I've got the website up and I'm referring to it as you were going over it. I didn't hear exclusions on capital. I know that's a big issue with the state. Was that discussed at all, whether or not the funds can be used for capital expenses?
I believe they're allowable for that, right, Sarah?
Capital is allowed.
That's right. Is there an expense period, or is that based upon the term that you apply for that 1, 2, or 3 year? Do you have to expense on a certain amount of time?
There will be an expense period, but a report period.
Yeah. So I think we'd be more looking at if you said you were going to start a project in March and now it's September and nothing's started, like what's going on. But we're, foundation, so we have flexibility in that, but more so looking at it from kind of what's going on. Is this not being successful? How can we help versus rigidity? that
there
makes
will be
sense.
compliance checks and balances.
So on that point, that's the third area, just in terms of who is responsible for oversight and contract monitoring? Is that the foundation is, okay.
And the foundation intends to hire a grant compliance person, correct?
Yes, grants manager.
Grant manager, there you go. Anyone else?
I have a quick question, and I'm not sure if it's on this sheet or not, but is the disbursements throughout all these years to Cuyahoga, that's not the current, I know it could change, but is that specifically on this sheet, or is this just the overall
That's the
foundation?
overall.
This is just
Okay.
overall.
Okay, thank you.
And if you wanna figure out how much Cuyahoga County's gonna get in a year, you
Yeah.
go, it's 3.685%, of those defendants funding that were involved in the Bellwether case, or it jumps up to 9.43% for any new, companies that weren't defendants in the Cuyahoga County Bellwether litigation.
And then, just one more question, do you know when, after the state gets applications, when we would make that determination, when that process is approximately?
Like y'all's review process?
Yes, correct.
So if applications are due May 3rd, we'll kind of, on the foundation staff, will take a look and start looking for, did the same organization apply to every single region, or were there, look for things like that to pull out and flag for y'all. You'll probably get them early, mid-May. We don't have a set date yet as to when that grant review needs done by.
We're probably gonna wanna have a board meeting late May, early June,
Yes.
because, again, this process, there's extra panels, and slowing, you wanna have your ducks in a row for the final state board approval vote. Which again is a rough guess of 3 to 4 months after the May 3rd date, so.
So approximately August, we should expect we would need to submit and have everything to the state, because that's when the board will then make their final decision.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would guess even a little, well, I guess after we talk about our funding priorities, and how we're gonna make the decision as to what to fund, is that gonna be a board or a subcommittee? The subcommittee will make a recommendation, I assume this board will vote as a whole on whether to approve or, those recommendations or not. So we need to talk about our process locally, but just to give you, again, you see how complicated this is, not knowing, how, quickly or slowly. Obviously, the board, the foundation wants to get the money out as soon as we can, but we have to wait for 19 regions to, do their, diligence. And again, as a board member, I recognize, this has been the case of wait and then hurry up. And, but that's what we're looking at now. So, the regions are hungry for the money, and, we wanna be diligent, but we also don't wanna hold anybody else up.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks.
Sir, is there anything else that we need to add that you'd want to offer from the state board?
Yeah, so our slides from the last board meeting on February 14th, hi everyone, are on our website, 17th plug for the website, under the meetings tab, so you can see the executive director's report. That does have a really nice visual walking through the whole process of the grant timeline, and all of the steps in it, with some of the notes that Judge Mattia made about kind of eligibility and length of grant. So that is all on the website. And then just, if you didn't get my email and you're on the regional board, we're doing region recap meetings the Friday following every foundation board meeting, where you can join. We had 33 folks attend, so I thought that was pretty good. It was 30 minutes, so come eat your lunch with me. I'll recap what we talked about at the board meeting and then be able to answer questions directly. So those are kind of 2 updates from that. So,
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Moving into old and new business, Jill, would you like to please update everyone on the funding priorities document?
Sure, yes, so we presented this to this group, I think 2 meetings ago, and then there was a request for some additional data. So at the last meeting, Dr. Gilson presented a great deal of information, and we also provided a full written document for folks to review. We can make sure that people have access to that again if needed, but we do need to go back to these priorities to make sure that we are voting on them so that we can get them to the state. So what we came up with, again, this was a process last summer. We worked with a number of individuals. Some of them are part of this group. Others are sort of subject matter experts from external groups or entities. But these were the 2 priorities that that group came up with that we are kind of asking for an endorsement on or any changes or additions to it. So the first one is investing in evidence-based treatment and related services. That was the first thing that the group prioritized. So a couple of examples that were discussed in the group were increasing professionalism and workforce pay for sober living facilities certified by Ohio Recovery Housing. We also talked about encouraging sober living facilities to accept individuals on medications for opioid use disorder and recognizing their obligation to do so under the ADA. So that was one area, so just focusing on investments in evidence-based treatment. The second thing that we discussed was investing in services that address the social determinants of health for individuals seeking treatment or who are in recovery. So that was the second priority that was discussed. So some examples of that could be funding for legal aid attorneys or an ombudsman to help people in treatment or recovery with some civil legal needs such as income support, housing, utilities, educational access, legal status, or any personal or family security issues. And we also discussed a life stress release fund or something like that for individuals in recovery. And that's where the discussion was.
Would quickly add that we had a number of meetings this summer. I think there was only maybe 8 or 9 of us but we tried to be really intentional and really take time and think about, we started off with a much larger list and collectively talked about all of them and understanding there were a lot of unknowns at that point, but trying to understand from all of our different subject matter expertise, where some of the biggest concerns lie. So I just kind of wanted to add that for that process. It wasn't a quick process. With a few of us, we tried to have every kind of group represented at some point. So some of us, or a lot of them are in the room, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
What is Mike Riley here, the expected use of these priorities? So if we get 100 applications to Region 3, is the idea that we would filter them on the basis of whether they address the priorities we've adopted?
Yes. When the applications are received and when our Region 3 subcommittee meets then to sort of rank them, this is the filter that they would be using.
And part of it is to, put some priorities out there so we don't get 100 applications. So those who are thinking about applying, if it's a way out program, they might see that it's not what we're looking for. Because, there's going to be a lot of reviewing if you get 100 applications.
Can I ask a question for Sarah? Sarah, just from the state perspective, even though if we decide to move forward with those priorities are broad, if in fact we don't get applications that meet within those priorities or something of that, we still move forward with this process. It's not, obviously that's strongly recommended if those are our priorities we fund, but it doesn't halt our process or anything from your perspective, right?
Right, if you
Okay.
didn't like anything that came in for, the treatment grants, you're not required to then fund that.
We don't
if you
have to
didn't like
use,
them.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Sarah.
But it's
I didn't mean-
important to have them.
We don't have to spend any of this money,
Yeah.
this period. If we don't like anything we get, we don't lose the money, it just stays in, our designated account, for the next, grant cycle.
It might be helpful too if I just quickly go through some additional ideas that were discussed but not prioritized. So the group also talked about workforce investments and decided not to add that to the list because at the time the state of Ohio had just announced some scholarships and aid for individuals seeking careers in the mental health field. We did not determine that we would prioritize first responder or law enforcement enhancement. We discussed that there's such a large number of law enforcement agencies in Cuyahoga County, and with the limited resources, the impact would be pretty limited as well. And then the third thing we discussed was community engagement and education, and the county just started, or is soon going to launch a community awareness campaign. And there's a number of campaigns that the Adams Board and other groups do, so we were concerned that that would be redundant at this point. So those were the three that were kind of ruled out, if that's helpful to know.
And again, they were all good priorities. We knew we had to whittle it down as a group and, but open for.
I've got a question. So when we list these priorities, you named off some examples of each of them. Will examples be included, or are we just talking about those now so that we understand what we're talking about?
I don't know, I think that's a question for Sarah.
Yeah, can add a little more context to it. So we took the abatement strategies that were in the MOU and kind of cleaned them up a little bit. And then added to it, like we added a specific infrastructure category because we can't fund capital. So a survey went out to all the regional board chairs and kind of their admin, asking for the funding priorities kind of based in these 11 kind of broad buckets. So they're treatment and healthcare services, intervention and crisis support, criminal legal system, recovery supports, prevention, harm reduction, services for impacted children and families, public safety and first responders, workforce development, infrastructure, and other. So I think most of what y'all talked about fits in one of those. I think whatever the group decides today, we'll just want to make sure we put them in one of these. So as of right now, it's just in the RFP and then on your region webpage and in the grant portal. It's just going to be kind of the big bucket that pops up. We haven't talked further about if we get really specific within there. So right now it is just these kind of broad categories based on the abatement strategies in the MOU.
I know Cincinnati or Hamilton County they've had their priorities in for a long time, and they're listed on the website. Are there other metropolitan counties besides Hamilton that have theirs on the website?
On our website?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think we put theirs on there yet.
They're not up yet, the priorities?
I don't think so. Theirs might be on their local website. We have not put any of the funding priorities on the region websites yet.
When will they go up?
Probably the same day we launch the RFP.
Okay, so I did send out the Cincinnati ones a long, long time ago. Commissioner Driehaus sent me. Maybe we could dig those out and, see what another metropolitan area is doing. I mean, Cuyahoga County, we're fortunate here. There's just about every service imaginable. I mean, we have harm reduction, we have treatment, we have sober housing, So if you look at the bigger picture view, there's not really any gaps, but there's not a lot of, we're probably going to be looking to build out, expand, promote practices that work. Prevention's, though, something we should not forget about because I've been doing drug court for 15 years and it's been opiates the entire time. I mean, this crisis has not been abating. Why do people keep coming to this? We have to ask that question. So we'll have our work set out for us in that regard. We're figuring out how we want to spread this $1.8 million.
Is there a motion on the floor to adopt the funding priorities as set forth from the subcommittee?
I'll move. Dave Margolius.
Is there opportunity for discussion?
Yes. let me get a second.
May I ask another?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Scott Osuki.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Sorry to take up the time. Riley again. So this all makes sense. My vision of the function of this Region 3 board would be to make sure that the priorities we're adopting fit our region. Hence, Hamilton might have different issues and Franklin and rural counties. So not being a member of that priority guidance subcommittee, I would just like to have somebody in that subcommittee, and maybe it's already happened, just tell us, the other board members, that yes, we heard from people who know what Cuyahoga County needs. And that's what's informing our priorities. The priorities, of course, sound great because they all do, all 11 do, but have we selected ones that are a good fit for our county is my question. And forgive me, but I'm wondering, was Scott Osuki weighing in on those priorities?
Yes.
Was Joan Englund weighing in on those priorities? People who I know see these issues, Brandy, county people. I'll stop talking now.
I think, Jill, I don't know if you have the list, but I would just say we had offered at one of the initial meetings, one of these meetings, anybody who wanted from this board to either be on the subcommittee and or recommend someone for the subcommittee. It was open to anybody, but Jill, do you have the list with
I
you?
do,
I don't think
yeah.
Mike was getting the emails at that time.
And I think it's in the copy of the presentation. I know it's pretty hard to see. It's pretty small, but, so it was Brandy on behalf of the county. Jim Joyner, who has a long history of working in the treatment field. Judge Mattia from his perspective with the drug court. Tom Olmsted from St. Vincent Charity Community Health Center, of course, long history of working in the field. Scott Osuki from the Adams Board. Director Schofield from North Olmsted, helping us to make sure that we had the law enforcement perspective. Matt Vanyo, also from the law enforcement field. He's in the West Shore Enforcement Bureau and a former chief of police for one of our suburban communities. And then Dr. Lulu, and I'm sorry, I never met the doctor, so I don't know how to pronounce the doctor's last name, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but a frontline medical respondent. So we did have quite a good perspective, I think, in this group.
And we really talked back and forth about all of these and, weighing the pros and the cons and what we were seeing. And we really wanted to make a difference is what we were thinking, right? Not the same old thing like Judge Mattia said, and we're looking at the different gaps that we may or may not have, but that was the whole purpose of affecting a person's life is that's one of the goals that we were looking at. So, hence the social determinants of health.
Okay, thank you for that.
Great.
I wasn't feeling left out, Judge, just wanted to hear.
I always appreciate your
Process
perspective.
was thorough.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, and with Joan too. Yeah.
So for the RFP, tell me if I captured kind of what you had as your, kind of those big buckets, if these are correct. Treatment and healthcare services, recovery supports, and services for impacted children and families. Does that accurately reflect what you all had?
Harm reduction, I think.
I would just add that if they're voted on to move forward today, we were just gonna rewrite them and hand them to you, but we can give you this copy, Sarah, so that you would have this information too.
She has
But
it.
I have it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But just
Just to ensure
like
that-
social determinants of health isn't one of the abatement strategies.
What was
So-
one of the, can you read all the categories again to us?
Yes.
So we have to use your words, is what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, because then
So
in
we
the
have to-
system,
okay.
yep, it's all kind of, and then, why we're doing this is then it'll make really nice dashboards for all of us, and we go do reporting, we can, it was everything for recovery supports, everything for prevention, just allows us to sort really easily, and it's all based on language from the MOU, those abatement strategies, so.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to kind of
Yeah.
take what you had and.
Yeah, because I remember you were saying something before, and I
Yeah.
thought it would fit in, but I can't remember all of them off the
Yeah.
top of my head. Treatment and healthcare, like an intervention and crisis support, I think. Isn't that one of them? I mean, if we're talking about the
So why
social
don't you read 'em?
determinants of health, and if you're helping somebody even with their legal problems or things like that, is that like intervention then, right? I mean, is that,
We have to change the words. I mean, if you're looking at, page 35, supportive, employment and jobs, support the development of recovery-friendly environments in all sectors, schools, communities, and workplaces. I think if, we wanna help people get their driver's licenses back so they can get to work,
Yeah.
I think we can phrase it in a way that it's covered.
Yeah, and I think it's the bold text in the pocket MOU, kind of the even bigger category. Those
Want
are
it
the
under
ones.
some-
recovery
Treatment.
supports, you had recovery
Yeah,
supports, right?
recovery
You already selected
supports.
that.
Yep, so it's treatment and healthcare services, intervention and crisis support, criminal legal system, recovery supports, prevention, harm reduction, services for impacted children and families, public safety and first responders, workforce development, infrastructure, other. Someone picked other.
Yeah, they did, right? Yeah, it was on there.
Yeah.
But here's another question. So the subcommittee recommended evidence-based treatment services, but I don't see evidence-based on your plaques. So is that something that we can build into,
So that's an application question.
okay, got
You
it.
have to tell
Okay.
us, all
Got
the
it.
applicants will have to describe, the evidence informing their proposed project or proposal.
Got it.
So, but yeah, no, right now it's just kind of these, and I'm sorry, not everyone can see this.
It's hard to remember, yeah.
But yeah, in those buckets for the sorting.
What's the vehicle to communicate that applicant information? And just realizing, obviously, we can't do that at a big public meeting, cause it's procurement that's gonna come out. So how will we communicate that level of detail? Will someone get an advanced copy?
Okay, so, we have the One Ohio grant portal. So this will all be done electronically, everyone will apply through the foundation's grant portal. And if you are a Region 3 grant reviewer, you will create your own account, and so on your own time, from wherever you wanna do it, you can log in and score and review all the applications, everything stays electronic, nothing's being printed or emailed, shared. And then after everyone from the Region 3 Review Committee has reviewed and scored, you'll come together, deliberate, discuss, you can do that in executive session, cause this is, people's best work, sensitive information, make those decisions, and then your power user is ultimately the person that submits in the system to the foundation. Yes, we wanna fund this one, and for how much?
Is there any further discussion?
Am I able to make a question, or is it only for board members?
No, you can. We have a motion on the floor, so I am trying to make sure that we're staying within our Robert's Rules of Order.
I just have one more question. So
Yes.
is our region, are we allowed to communicate this to the public, our folks? Like,
funding
yeah,
priorities?
like your categories that you do, but then a little bit more detail of what we were thinking.
We don't know about that yet,
Okay,
that's something I
Okay.
gotta revisit with the regions.
okay, all right, thank you.
I would encourage you to communicate, the dates to anybody you know who's a potential grantee, and again, have them sign up on the website, for updates.
Yes.
Cause that way you won't miss anything if you're interested in becoming a grantee.
All those in favor of adopting the Region 3 funding priorities, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes. Did you have a comment or a question that you would like to?
Yes, I, just want to say, hi, I'm Bethany, I'm with Thrive for Change, a local harm reduction nonprofit, so I heard, a lot of I know that so much has been put into these priorities, and they're definitely all very, very valuable, as everybody has said, and everything that was included in the possibilities. I guess my only comment, is around, the focus on people who are ready for recovery and the potential of all the needs of the people who aren't, I guess, when it comes
Thank you. Okay. David, you had just mentioned about communication. So one of the things that is on our agenda today is to talk about the methods to notify our communities of the upcoming application process. And I guess one question that I had is, Sarah or Judge, what is the One Ohio Foundation doing? How are they communicating throughout the state for this?
So very soon, all the regional board members will receive an email from our executive director with sample social media posts, sample tweets, and Facebook posts, kind of all of the content that you need to promote throughout all of your networks. The foundation will be hosting statewide trainings for all of the grant applicants, for the grant reviewers. We have a pretty extensive mailing distribution list, if you can imagine. So we're doing a call also with all of our statewide kind of stakeholder partners, like Jones Group, to help disseminate that way. So, but you will all be emailed kind of sample stuff that you can just share and disseminate out throughout your network. So we've already designed it all, made it, proofed it. You just gotta copy and paste or upload.
Thank you. And I know that our board will be relying on Cuyahoga County, both your team and the communications team to make sure that that message is getting out to all those in our region. Is there any additional discussion or questions on this subject?
Well, I would ask that, we have representatives from the city of Cleveland, our chairs, mayor of a large suburb. We have other mayors of large suburbs on this committee. I would ask that all of you with websites, cities, county websites, consider putting this information out there on the 1st of March, 3rd of March, whenever the release comes out.
Mayor, when our communications team sends it out to everybody, we'll make sure to have them do it to all the, municipal contacts and ask them to further post it and tweet it to Judge's point. And then also out to any outside of the municipal contacts, send it out to people. And then if there's any type of press or anything like that done, I'll make sure to contact you so you and the vice chair are part of that.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is to review the One Ohio Foundation's RFP for the projects, which Judge, you already kind of did earlier. Is there any questions or additional information that we wanted to get from that? I think you covered it, so thank you. Next is the application review process to identify a subcommittee in order to review those applications that come in and then present to the full board their recommendations. I believe that there's some options given, but I think that we've had kind of a lot of changeover on the board. So I would suggest that we start a new subcommittee of people who would like to be a part of that the application review. And so at this time, I would ask if we can have volunteers.
Sure.
To serve in that capacity, please.
I'll volunteer.
I would volunteer.
I will, Mayor, if I can, if you guys email me, if that's okay,
Perfect.
following this meeting, and I can send something out asking everyone by next Tuesday or Wednesday, let me know, and then I can send the people that sent something to me and just notify everyone on the committee of the members of the subcommittee, if that works.
That's great.
By next Wednesday, how's that?
Yes.
Okay, you got it.
Wonderful. And the final piece of new business is not actually on here, but it is something that the state is requiring us to do, which is to select the power user, which is essentially the person who would be inputting information from our Region 3. I know that Brandy Carney and her team would be willing to do that on behalf of the board, which I think makes sense. But if anyone else would like to step
And I would
up.
just say, this is just
Looking at you, Leila.
administratively, we're not gonna put anything in that isn't decided by this board, we're
I
just
was
gonna
nominating Jill.
take the information, but if one of you guys want
Gonna
to, that's
second it.
totally fine.
And correct, this is, what we're talking about is a purely administrative task, and
I volunteer Bird.
I already tried.
And
She was-
I'm all for Brandy and Jill now.
Really quiet down there.
Bird down there.
All right, well, so, and that needs to be a vote, correct, Sarah, or,
I'd make it official.
okay.
I'll make a motion that Brandy and her team continue to power
Oh, I'll
user.
get you.
Well, there's a motion and seconded. All in favor of Brandy Carney being the power user, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay. Was there any additional new business that needed to be taken care of?
I just wanna confirm y'all's, Region 3 is not gonna do a preset funding allocation, like 500,000 for treatment, 500,000 for
No,
Recovery.
I don't believe that we
no
were not.
funding, okay, perfect. And then I'll just need to work with someone, I wanna make sure I take the funding priorities y'all voted on and make sure I match them up correctly with what we have. I can do that now, or I can just work with someone after.
We can work after and then send it out to the committee just to make sure everyone's aware, but I'm happy to do that with
It's
you.
gonna go in the RFP by 3/4, so
By when?
March 4th.
Oh, I mean immediately after this, we
Okay.
can do it right away, yeah. I thought you meant by like 3, 4 o'clock. I'm kidding.
No, that's fine.
All right. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
Second.
Sorry.
All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. None opposed. We are adjourned at 3:27 PM.
That went on for a long time. That was good, that was a lot. You managed it like really well. Yeah, that could have went.
Anybody needs a parking?
There was way too much.
Now I'm having a- I got
Oh my
you
God,
out
there's
in
a
time.
I'm watching this clock, I'm like, we'll never make it, we're still on the first item, and you like did it, what, it was thorough, that you're not saying. Thanks.
That's all you got.
Do not keep that. No, no.
I got mine from the box yesterday.
Those are the best.
That was good, thanks.
Yeah, we did have